Welcome back everybody to the Losers Finals of the And Then Some Gaming Tournament number 1. This is the Losers Finals, and whoever wins this game gets a chance to take part in that €2,000 prize pool brought to you by SteelSeries Complete and Then Some Gaming. Please support them by going to the site, support them by checking out SteelSeries and Complete and all that jazz. But yeah, only top 2 take home prizes, so this is a matter between getting something from this weekend tournament and getting nothing except the thrill of combat, which is a pretty good reward in and of itself. Anyway, I'm B-Bomb from DotaContest.com. How are you doing? Hopefully you're all doing swell today. Anyway, this is Out of Tangoes versus Baget, and Out of Tangoes Foda were probably the two most well-known teams going into this tournament, just from the team list. Yost and Plus4 entered, but unfortunately didn't check in time. But surprisingly, Right in the Dark managed to beat Out of Tangoes and make it all the way to the grand finals on the winner's side of the bracket. So Out of Tangoes had to fight through a lot of the losers bracket, and here they are in the losers finals. They are from Sweden. I'm not too sure where Baget is from. It's B-A-G-E-T, not the baguette, the French version of baguette. So that's just a little bit of information, background information on these two teams. Out of Tangoes usually plays pretty solid, play pretty carefully. Usually don't make too many mistakes, but if they get pressured early, they do have a bit of more of a difficult time, like we saw against Ride in the Dark. But so far, Out of Tangoes does have the first pick, so it makes sense that Baget gonna ban out the Batrider, saying you cannot get your hands on him. And it's just, interestingly enough, I have not yet seen Silencer in this tournament thus far, despite him being released in Captain's Mode. And I still might not see Silencer, and I'd be glad for that because I think Silencer is quite annoying to deal with, but that's just me personally playing against him. He does shut down a lot of strategies, so maybe if there's something like a Darkseer pickup to really disrupt a combination, Silencer could be a logical choice, but as it is, I don't really expect these teams to go too far outside of their comfort zone to really pick up a hero that they probably have not practiced too much, because he was just added into the Captain's Mode 2 days ago. Anyway, Baget taking a while for their second ban, dipping into a bit of the reserve time, gonna have the anti-mage, interesting. So I want to leave as many powerful heroes in the pool as possible, so that means Magnus, Darkseer, Rubik, all left in the pools, and you might say, Rubik? Well, actually, if you look on the stats on Dota-Academy.com, shouts to Bruno, Rubik has actually had a ridiculously high win percentage as of late, so he's really strong. But anyway, Out of Tangoes probably going to choose something like the Magnus or the Darkseer right here. I can't really think of any other logical choices. And Flox usually plays a really strong Darkseer. I have not seen Out of Tangoes actually handle a Magnetar this tournament, and they're going to pick up the Nyx, one of those other heroes I forgot about. And that might just leave Baget both Magnetar and the Darkseer. So it's very easy for them to crush a team fight. So this Out of Tangoes lineup might have to go super gank heavy, otherwise they will just get wiped in team fights. And one thing that can be said about the lineup that Baget is holding is that they do have long cooldowns. They want to fight with the RP, they probably want to fight with the wall, and they want to get a good amount of experience on the Darkseer up, get that dagger up in the Magnus. They do have the vacuum into RP, so once it comes down to the mid to late stages of the game should essentially be theirs as far as teams fights are concerned. But with these two pickups, it's probably Out of Tango's best option to sort of go for an early game strategy and really try to control the map, shut them down. Especially since they are on the Radiant side, they really need the map control so they can try to get control of Roshan. Otherwise, the team with Darkseer and Magnus will just have way too easy of a time taking that Roshan slot. But Out of Tango's going to respond with Rubik Windrunner. If they manage to steal something like RP or Vacuum, then they'll probably be very happy. Windrunner, very versatile now. She can lane probably in the offlane in this game. But we will see. Gyrocopter is going to be a choice by Baget, so they are going all-out team fight. Of course, Gyrocopter very versatile, but in this turn he's mostly been played as a hard carry, not going for the no-talent or secondary support. So I expect to see more carrying, more farming Gyrocopter compared to ordinarily other sorts of roles rather than mid-solo Gyrocopter, because we are going to see Magnus in that mid-lane capacity. Probably see Darkseer in the off lane. Although if it is Nyx Assassin versus Magnus in the mid lane, which I probably doubt, these two heroes, Rubik and Nyx Assassin, will probably help support a tri-lane. But if it is Nyx Assassin versus Magnus, Nyx will have the advantage, so maybe it'd be wise for Darkseer to rotate around. Still, this is just a lot of theory crafting, just jumping out. It's pretty early in the day for me, but still not too early that I can't bring you some pretty strong Dota. Even if these teams aren't the most well-known teams, they definitely have had some strong performances. Baget making it to the winners finals, now in the losers finals. And Tangoes taking down very strong opponents. Foda was in this tournament. They've beaten teams like 4FC, have beaten other really strong Russian teams as well. Tangoes, really strong Swedish team. Definitely been on the up and up. I think they took part in DreamHack and did a bunch of other things recently for PL Cup. I know they placed high in a couple of those.
10 seconds remaining.
But now we're starting to get to the second ban phase. Tangoes is removing that Shadow Demon, saying
5
Gyrocopter and
seconds
Shadow Demon,
remaining.
such a deadly combination. Pretty much means that, okay, you're going to cast Disruption on one of our heroes. Gyrocopter can get up close and personal to get the maximum amount of Rocket Barrage damage, especially with Soul Catcher. That one Rocket Barrage can pretty much kill any hero in the game at early levels if there's a Soul Catcher on top of them. And Tangoes continue to ban out supports that will pair well with the Gyrocopter, saying you do not have any supports in your left so far. So it makes a lot of sense to ban out the Bane as well. Also sets up very well with the Gyrocopter. Gonna ban out the Undying as well in case an aggressive Trillion is gonna be run. And also they don't want to leave Team Baget too many options in the early to mid game team fights. They just want to shut them down early game, and Undying is very strong in early to mid game team fights. So that is definitely a solid option right there. Yeah. Looks like Baget gonna ban out hard carry, saying, alright, out of Tangoes, you do not have a hard carry of your own. Gonna ban out the Lone Druid, saying, okay, if you want to win, you're probably gonna have to win by the 20 to 30 minute mark before a team fight gets too out of control with the Magnus and the Darkseer. So we'll ban out heroes that win, that succeed in the early stages of the game. And so far, the only carry who's left in the pool that really does super well by the 20 to 30 minute mark is probably the Chaos Knight, but there's no Wisp to help set him up. So as of this point, there's no really prototypical early to mid game carries still left in the pool for Tangoes to really abuse. At least not off the top of my head.
5 seconds
If they want to go ultra late game, they have the option, but still, against a Darkseer and a Magnus combination in that team fight, all your supports will die even if your carry does survive. But now we're just waiting on Tangoes' 4th pick. Probably going to pick up either their offlane. No, they already have their offlane, the winner. Are going to probably pick up the mid solo or the carry right now. I think they're going to try to pick up their carry here, leave their mid solo for last. There's still a lot of strong mid solo heroes left in the pool. Queen of Pain. No, they're going to pick up the mid solo right now, so this is going to be the Beastmaster. So we will see. Again, it's going to be Beastmaster versus Magnus. And Beastmaster does do pretty well against Magnus. Can't really kill Magnus. But you can't really be killed by Magnus unless you get scared in the tower, which it is a lot easier for Magnus to do considering both heroes are melee. So that is something Beastmaster will have to watch out for. Beastmaster, naturally tanky, will always have some passive lane pushing with the point to Iron Beast. Will always give him easier access to the rune when Magnus Shockwave cannot be constantly spammed. And keep in mind, Beastmaster does have a spammable ability of his own in the form of those wild axes. So in terms of rune control, Beastmaster should have a slight edge just because of his aura. And of course, if it does come down to the late game, Roar going through BKB for the Gyrocopter, shutting down for 4 seconds, roaring somebody like the Darkseer, roaring somebody like the Magnus if he gets a dagger, will just be very, very crucial. So overall, this is a pretty solid choice. And keep in mind that Inner Beast does give him some early pushing power as well. With the increased attack speed, definitely something that cannot be underestimated. So, Tangoes still have to pick up their hard K, and right now, it looks like Baget having a little bit of a difficult time deciding who they should use as their supports in this game. Really, all the standard supports have been chosen. They could pick up a jungler to help out the Gyrocopter, but that means they won't really have a really strong laning presence to shut down the offlane hero, which is the Windrunner in this situation. They could go for something like a Disruptor, who does need a lot of experience, but Static Storm will help immensely. But I think the problem is that they do want their supports to get as little experience as possible in order to maximize the amount of experience Gyrocopter can get. And Disruptor is one of those heroes who really needs experience. And it looks like we're going to see a less track choice by the side of Baget. So going to supplement their team fight with more AoE. Going to have a little bit of pushing power on their side if it is a Windrunner versus Gyrocopter matchup on that top lane. So if Windrunner is ever driven back, Edict will help to burst down tower. I don't imagine this left track will go for lightning. And we're going to see a Shadow Fiend by Tangoes. Let's go. And this is most likely going to be a safe lane Shadow Fiend supported by a tri-lane. Expect Beastmaster to be in the mid solo, and actually we've seen a huge departure in mid lane Shadow Fiends as of late. just because he's very easily ganked, and if you don't really have a support there constantly, he will just have a very difficult time in lane against certain heroes. Probably won't have too difficult time against Magnus, so we have the potential to see maybe
10
an aggressive
seconds
trial of
remaining.
Windrunner Rubik Nyx, Beastmaster safe lane Xiaofeng mid, but it's probably going to be a
5
safe lane
seconds
Xiaofeng in this
remaining.
situation, just so we can have uninterrupted free farm. Darkseer really can't contest him. And just to round out the team fight, why not even make it more deadly? We're going to add Sand King to that mix. And that's actually pretty solid because one thing that could help or could harm the Baget squad in the late game is the cooldowns of their ultimate. If their reverse polarity is cooling down, then they really don't want to take a team fight. But now they have many ultimates to go through, whether it be the epicenter, the reverse, the cooldown. If one of them are still online for the next team fight engagement because they weren't used in the previous one, then the Baguette squad should be in decent shape, and Sand decent early game hero can roam as that Burrow Strike. Pretty easy to set up on multiple heroes, assuming they're all close by. And it will be a support Sand King, so really won't have the best range for that Burrow Strike in the early game. But we'll see if the Baguette squad going to pick up an early game smoke, try to gank the Beastmaster. Otherwise, they're going to have a difficult time in the early game, to say the least, because Sand King does want experience. Leshrac can function well without experience, but if he doesn't get some form of experience in farm, he will just die instantly in these team fights. But we'll take this time to use the players and teams. On the side of our Tangoes, we have Frigo Leap playing Rubik's Step Styles, playing the Nyx Assassin. Floxplox is going to be playing the off-lane Windrunner. Sisso is playing the Beastmaster. And the Maglev Gang Train rolling out with that Shadow Fiend. Me on the dire side, Baget, B-A-G-E-T. Blue is going to be playing the Magnus. Life is playing the something. Not too sure whether it is the Leshrac or the Darkseer. Looks like he is going to be playing the Leshrac. Sex is going to be playing the Gyrocopter. Squiggly Face is playing the Sand King. What else can you say? I guess we'll just call him underscore because he doesn't have really the squiggle lines on his name. And Kappa. Going to be playing that Darkseer. Should be Kapow, not Kappa. Kappa just sounds lame. If it was Kapow, it'd just be like, bam! Kappa gets an ultra kill. It's compared to Kapow gets an ultra kill. That's just such a nicer ring to it. Anyway, we're going to see the first pause of the game, so we'll look at some support items. Nyx Assassin, going to be supporting Trialing with those Observer rewards. Leshrac yet to pick up his items so far. It looks like the Baguette squad, a little bit AFK at this point. Going to be very vastly outmaneuvered if there is an early game team fight. Keep in mind Xiaofeng is pretty balls in early game team fights. He really can't do anything, does want to have one level of Necromastery. But if he isn't safe lane, doesn't really need to have those Necromasteries, can probably just last it up anyway. Shoutouts to me. Meanwhile, Steph out with those observer wards online. Flox just picking up a ring of protection, gonna go into the Tranquil Boots most likely. No Aquila for this Windrunner. Won't go for Phase Boots, just gonna go for Tranquil Boots, try to sustain her off-lane presence. Meanwhile, on the side of the Beastmaster, gonna rush that fastball. Rubik with some Sentry wards as well as smoke to try to shut down the early game middle presence of the Magnus. If Magnus manages to get a fast blink dire, I think Tango's odds really decrease drastically because then Magnus gets a blink in reverse, or if Darkseer can set up a vacuum for Magnus blink in reverse, then it just becomes so difficult for Tango's to actually push in and try to end the game, especially against all this AoE on the side of the dire. So it makes a lot of sense to see an early game smoke as the unpause does come through. And then followed up by immediate repause. Manners, please. Well, I guess Baguette said, or Baguette were the one to pause, but they probably didn't see Beastmaster disconnect. But as it is, just 30 seconds after that initial pause, repause shenanigans, we are going to see the game back in action. Going to see an interesting observer ward. Trying to spout the movement, so maybe they're going to do an early smoke gank to the top lane. Not too sure what this observer ward does do. It gives you some slight vision here, but it doesn't block off the creep camp at all. It doesn't block off the pulls, so it'll just give you some slight vision. And I think this indicates that they really want to do some smoke ganks onto the top lane very early on. And that's going to be a long, arduous journey of 1,000 miles just to gank this gyrocopter, but it seems Tango is committed to that option.
The battle begins.
But meanwhile, Magnus gonna go for a fast battle himself, knows he's going up against a Beastmaster. And interesting because the Dire took so long to pick up their heroes. Picked up their heroes at 40 seconds before picking up any items. They have no wards on the map just yet, and it's going to be pretty difficult for them to actually place offensive wards to protect their offlane. So they're going to have to place really defensive wards to protect their Tron. And I think Tangoes know this, so that's why they place such an aggressive observer ward, so they can smoke up. And if they do smoke up, they're not going to be survived by any wards whatsoever. So for the most part, Baget, when the smoke comes, they will be most likely in the dark. But so far, Beastmaster and Magnus going to duke it out mano y mano. Both have the same amount of armor, but Beastmaster does have a slight edge in terms of HP, and the Wild Axes do a bit more damage at level 1. Actually, it looks like it's the same amount of damage. I always forget. No, 15 extra damage. 15 extra damage, it does count. Especially since it's physical damage rather than the magical damage. Or it's mixed damage, god. It's too early for this stuff. But we're seeing Leshrac with a Smoker to see of his own. So I guess this smoke was to really also, or this ward was also really to see potential smoke ganks, as the Splurth is whiffed. And Windrunner gonna just duke it out, trade a couple hits with the Leshrac. I think if you want to pop Windrunner, do a bit more harassment, he could have had that option, but really wouldn't have been able to get a kill. And actually Windrunner already level 2. And we see some very early pulls because this camp was not warded off. Gonna give Sand King some farm, but also gonna get a bit of harassment as well. But Winner just gonna try sap experience. I don't imagine he's gonna be the primary carrier in this game. It's probably gonna be Beastmaster for out of Tangoes, because that is the trend lately. Winner, especially in the off lane, against a trend where it looks like they're gonna bend her completely to the wolves. Probably just gonna rush that 4 staff and leave Beastmaster to get the mechanism on the side of the Radiant. And meanwhile, Darkseer just gonna ban the bottom lane altogether, saying, "Alright, Rubik Nyx, pretty scary, and if Shadow Fiend manages to hit a couple raises, then I will die." So just gonna get safe farm, safe experience. Darkseer really wants as much experience and farm as possible. Really wants that level 10 or level 11, because that is usually the point where Darkseer gets a point into that wall of replica and really starts becoming a huge factor in these teamfights. Wants max vacuum, especially with Magnus on his side, Sand King for multiple people in a Burrow Strike. I think the key to this game for the Dire is going to be that Darkseer, as it usually is in most games. The key to any team is always going to be a Darkseer and how well he can pull off his vacuums and how fast he can get his experience going. I imagine he's going to be the mech carrier on his team, as it looks, yeah, no other natural mech carriers. Magnus does want those arcane boots as well as the dagger. He could go for mech, but I think Darkseer probably going to go mech in this situation, as he's going to do some camp stacking and just going to constantly run back and forth. Not enough mana to cast another Ion Shell, unfortunately for him, so going to have to pop that Clarity. But as it is, in this early game looking to be very, very passive. Shadow Fiend going to take a lot of free farm. We'll see if he rushes the Shadow Blade, like we see a lot more Shadow Fiends doing this tournament. Definitely increases attack speed. It gives him some nice right-click damage when he pops out. Not really used for escaping. If you're using Shadow Blade to escape, you're doing it wrong. You use Shadow Blade to split push, to initiate, and to get that extra attack speed on your carry. As Magnus is constantly threatening with that skewer, but that 800 range of the skewer won't be nearly enough to drag Beastmaster across the river back to the tower range. As you can see, the skewer does whiff, and that 800 range definitely not scary. Remember when that Magnus range just a month and a half ago was 1200? Pretty much drag him from here to here. Really scary, as Magnus does pop a double damage rune and will have an easier time lasting, but Beastmaster with that Inner Beast just going to keep the lanes pushed, as Warren is being a bitch. Shouts to Warren being a bitch. Stupid Steam bugging out. Can't go offline. Gonna have to fix that later. Meanwhile, just the farm is going on. Gyrocopter actually not outfarming the Shadow Fiend. Winner is contesting a bit more, and she is trying to pull to this camp, so that might be denying 1 or 2 creeps here or there. And in terms of early to mid-game damage, Shadow Fiend definitely has Gyrocopter beat. Gyrocopter can do a lot more magical damage, has potential to do a lot more AoE damage with the flat cam, but in terms of single target burst damage, Shadow Fiend definitely has a Gyrocopter, and actually Shadow Fiend gonna go for the Bracer. We'll see if he goes for drums. Probably gonna go for the drums. No other real natural drum carriers when Beastmaster is gonna get the Mecha, and Windrunner probably gonna get the 4 staff as their first item. So Shadow Fiend gonna pick up the drums, give him some nice move speed, attack speed, make him less of a glass can, then probably gonna go back into the Shadow Blade. That is probably my best guess, as Magnus is going to use the illusions to try to scare off any stacks, but unfortunately position them just a bit too awkwardly so they couldn't actually block anything. Just saying, here, my illusions are here. Try to spot the smoking, but that is going to allow the supports to wrap around. And if Magnus micros illusions, he could potentially see the radiant supports not in anywhere around. As Darkseer going to go back to the lane. Very low in does man, but does finally have the soul ring. But Magnus might be in a huge amount of trouble waiting for the creep blade to push. As Beastmaster playing so far back, I think Magnus knows something's up. As Beastmaster now approaching the lane. Beastmaster pretty low in terms of HP, which is maybe why the Radiant were hesitant to push in. As the Roshan Courier gonna go in. Roar is online, and here comes the axes. Beastmaster is just waiting for level 6, and the first blood of the game has been taken by the Radiant. As it's gonna give a nice amount of gold to everybody on the side of the Radiant who are involved in that kill. Really helping to fuel more wards, get those boots up ASAP. And the Radiant supports NA already level 4 due to those stacks and that gank. Rubik level 4 as well. Meanwhile, compared to the Dire supports, Leshak not even level 4. Sanking not really that close to level 4 either. So in terms of experience, looks like Radiant do have the slight advantage. But keep in mind, Windrunner not getting nearly as much experience as the Darkseer because Darkseer was farming in the jungle. Darkseer almost level 6, again, that magical level Darkseer wants to get. Of course, is at level 16, so he can have the max level of the wall. But he really wants to get to level 11, level 12, where he wants those max vacuum as well as 1 or 2 points into the wall of replica. But Arcane Boots have been finished on the Magnus. We'll see if he finishes something like a drums. Gyrocopter will probably get the drums on his side. Actually, Gyrocopter going for Aquila. Interesting. He's not using any spells, but this indicates that the Dire do want to go for a push sooner rather than later to turn on that Aquila, go for the armor boost. I think they're a bit worried about how well the Xiao Fiend's farming, who is pretty much lasting everything and then some. But as it is, more pulls going out for the Radiant. Lubric will hit level 5 relatively soon. NA, I think he's already level 5. Yes, he is. And once NA hits that level 6 with that Vendetta, it could be quite scary as Magnetar gonna wrap around. No rune in the bottle, but the Radiant Ward did spot the movement of Magnetar, so that is gonna be pretty well broadcasted to Fox saying stay the heck back. And Magnus is just gonna waste a bit of time.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Meanwhile, Beastmaster, we'll see if he gets Tranquils, if he goes for Arcane Boots, or if he just starts building into the mechanism ASAP. As he does have 7 charges on the magic stick, you can see Magnetar threatening the skewer, but ultimately decides better of it, saying, alright Beastmaster, you have the roar. If there's one rotation because I have no vision by support, I will just die. So you can see the lack of vision on the side of the Dire really costing them to play a lot more defensively. And so far that's working out pretty well for the Gyrocopter, but he's being outfarmed heavily by the Xiao Fiend, just because he has a little bit less blasted damage and because Windrunner able to contest the lane a bit longer, able to get a couple of creep pulls onto this camp. Meanwhile, Darkseer was AFK in jungle for the first 5 minutes in the game.
Dire's bottom tower is under
Meanwhile, the
Dire's
party
top
has
tower is
arrived
fortified.
to the bottom lane. Push is going on, and reinforcements. Magnus is invisible, and I don't think a Radiant Ward spied out the invisibility rune, unless there was a hawk in the picture. Here comes the stun by the Sand King. Reverse polarity gonna catch all 3. Darkseer in the picture with the Iron Shell doing huge amounts of damage. That invisibility rune, the lack of vision, gonna cost the Radiant as the vacuum whiffs on the... Oh no, on the Xiao Fiend. I was about to say that might let the Xiao Fiend escape. As me on the top lane, Gyrocopter gonna pick up a kill on the Windrunner, but that invisibility rune, the RP catching everybody on the Radiant, was just huge in that engagement. Gonna allow Beastmaster to get some push going, but I don't think he can bring down this tower. Shockwave gonna climb in. Tower not yet in deny range, and that is gonna mean the top tower gonna get pushed. And actually, Leshak
Tower is under attack.
went for lightning build as well, I guess to help clear out stacks.
Are fortified.
But no points edict means that this tower will not actually get pushed,
Radiant's
or
bottom
probably
tower
not in
is
danger of
under
dying
attack.
anytime soon. Interesting. Despite a couple support Leshaks, not seeing too many early edict builds, despite them having the option to get early tower pushes. Wonder what the rationale is behind that. I'm gonna have to ask. I guess this is easier in terms of lasting creeps if it is contested in the pole camps. But other than that, I really just think edict. If you have a chance of getting a tower, 1 point edict still makes a world of difference. But I guess Lightning Storm also has a longer cast range, a bit more reliable damage. So as a support, you just want to get as much damage as possible. And unfortunately for the Radiant, their Valen Tower was denied. Ray gonna push in for a second because they know the Magnus ultimate is on cooldown. Gonna try to get a wraparound gang on the Beastmaster. Magnus Ultimate still 30 seconds left on that cooldown, and Maglev Gang Train finished the drums as well as the Tranquils. And you can see, despite that death, still heavily outfarming the Gyrocopter, has 15 additional assets compared to the Gyrocopter. So is keeping up in terms of farm. Unfortunately, he did lose a huge amount of souls. Still needs to get 11 more souls before he is capped out. As the vacuum whiffs again. Very unfortunate. Level 2 vacuum does have a short cast range as they're going to surge the Sand King forward. Here comes Split Earth Stun, and Maglev Gang Train is about to be completely derailed by the gang party of the Dire. And I'm surprised that the rain stayed around so long. They had enough Reserve Wards fine out the movement, but I guess Xiaofeng just got a little bit too cocky. And now Tangoes usually doesn't make too many mistakes, but this game it seems like they're making a couple mistakes here and there. Didn't have Ward spotting out the vision or the rune of the Magnus, so they got unlucky in that gank. And Xiaofeng saw the movement of the Dire heroes, and he was caught out. So 2 deaths in quick succession for the Xiaofeng. Gonna have to take a while to farm back up the souls, losing a lot of gold in the meantime. And it's 2-5 in favor of the Dire despite an early tower loss. But keep in mind that tower was denied as missile is gonna fly in. Beastmaster trying to get a wraparound gank. Looks like Gyrocopter is going to take the bait. Calldown is being cast on Windrunner. If she runs to the north, will reduce a lot of that calldown damage. Here comes Roar. Axes in the picture as well. Power shot. Gonna easily clean up the kill as Gyrocopter fell for the bait perfectly. And Dire still no wards on the map. Really interesting play by them. I guess they want to get as many items on the supports as possible. Otherwise they will be food later on. No, they still have a smoke. And Mushrak really hasn't made too much item progression. It is level 6, so has to point to that edict right now. Just checking out the Sand King. Just the boots. He has enough money to buy wards, but Dire choose to play completely in the dark. And that is going to cost him a Gyrocopter death, but keep in mind Gyrocopter has only died once compared to Xiaofeng's 2 deaths. So they can sort of afford 1 death, I guess. I mean, you never want to let the carry die in any scenario. As teleported in by the Gyrocopter, nobody's there to help back him up. But I don't think the Radiant know this. Actually, they have the Hawk there giving them vision. So they know Gyrocopter's behind Sloansome, but no opportunity to get a nice shackle shot off onto the trees. As Beastmaster is actually going to block out the Windrunner cooldown, going to miss just barely on the edge. Was that a perfectly timed bait? No, it's actually just going to be a perfectly timed feed by the Windrunner, as just a bit of a misplay by the Beastmaster, as there's a lot of misplays. I haven't seen too many misplays this tournament so far, but a couple mistakes by both sides. Gonna lose a double kill on the top lane. Meanwhile, Sand King died to the Shadow Fiend on the bottom lane, 2-2, so able to redeem himself slightly. But again, Gyrocopter, well, there's a point in Edict, so this tower will eventually get pushed down. Lightning going to be used to clear out the creeps. Split Earth going to be used as well. Spike Carapace not in the picture. Going to reduce that stun. Or going to take that stun like an absolute champ. But Leshak managed to finish Arcane Boots, so I guess he was just playing super greedy, wants to get that Arcane Boots up to spam his spells rather than go for anything like wards. But despite the lack of wards, you can see Dire have a 3 kill advantage and have a tower deny. Meanwhile, the Radiant do suffer quite a bit in the late game. And actually, Windrunner is going to go for the mecha. Beastmaster chose to get the Arcane Boots rather than the mecha. Interesting decisions, not really the most prototypical, but I guess they expect Windrunner because she's not going to be in the middle of the battle, or probably won't be RP because she won't be in the melee range. Not going to be clumped up with the rest of the team. They figure she'll be able to survive pop the mechanism more than the Beastmaster. As Sand King trying to get in position for the Burst Strike. Surge just a bit too late as Xiaofeng gonna escape. Xiaofeng's just gonna teleport to the mid lane, take some farm, gonna do some split pushing. This tower will end up dying, and I don't know if the Dire can take down this tower quickly enough, as NA does manage to pick up a tower on the top lane, and the Dire are gonna lose 2 towers for the price of 1. Not really worth it, but this tower pretty crucial in terms of Roshan engagement. Gonna give Darkseer a finished mecha. So it's worth it in some regards because it gives Darkseer additional boost to gold. And Darkseer level 9, gonna have access into that wall very soon. Wants to get that max level of vacuum because he has been whiffing vacuums left and right. Really wants to increase cast range and increase radius on the vacuum so he can actually land them every single time. As still no wards, Dire playing completely wardless. It's not a map bug. There's just no wards for the Dire. They're just playing super greedy.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
And Gyrocopter is going to get held in place for a bit. Fade Bolt going to be used as well. Rubik has finished their Arcane Boots. They spot a wild Darkseer running through the forest. Can they get a roar on? Here comes the RP. Nice RP by the Magnus. We're not expecting the Blink Dagger. Immediate double kill by the Magnus as Xiaofeng trying to run away, but you can't run. You can't hide from these guys. As Xiaofeng going for the straight up BKB rush, but these blink in reverses, they have all the vision in the world to spot it out. But still, the unexpected nature, the fact that Magnus actually looks like he's had the blink dive for quite a bit. So Radiant probably should have been in better positioning right there. And so far, 4-10, and you expect out of Tangoes to really play more composed. I haven't seen them actually make too much mistakes in this tournament thus far. Even if they're not like a well-known team such as Dignitas, Navi, Liquid, or any of those top-tier Western teams. They are still a very solid team, but one of their faults I have noticed in this tournament is that if they get under early game pressure, they do tend to lose a lot of their swagger. Edict should be enough to help clear on this tower. Creeps are tanking a lot of it. Magnus is going to blink in. Gonna catch a Xiaofeng yet again. No stun to follow up. Rory is going down the gyrocopter. Xiaofeng juking as if his life depends on it, because it does. And he is able to clean up the gyrocopter. Meanwhile, Magnus should be able to retreat. Does have that dagger up in 11 seconds. Gonna switch targets for the Leshrac. Trying to get that summon of the boar up ASAP. Nice split earth, but the split earth cast immediately after by the Rubik. No casting animation, but there is still a delay as Magnus is gonna get Vendetta, gonna get impaled as well. No mana for the dagger, gonna get raced in the face. Here comes Sanking. Does he want to join the feeding spree as well? Magnus is gonna buy back, no access into the reverse. Magnus is gonna blink in with the skewer. So that buyback all for naught. Only wasted about 300, 400 gold, and that buyback mechanism is coming in to help save the lives of Sanking, but a nice tactical retreat by that Xiaofeng. Unfortunately, the race not enough to pick up the kill for the Radiant. Now Magnus might very well lose his buyback as Vacuum up onto the cliffs. Gonna mean that NA is trapped, gonna teleport back home, but the boar and the Xiaofeng putting in some work. As meanwhile, Saturn King does die to the power shot of the Windrunner. Gyrocopter gonna take a bunch of damage, but Xiaofeng is gonna pay for it with his life. Radiant unfortunately ran out of steam, and the buyback was worth it for the Magnetar. We're able to pick off the Xiaofeng at the very least. But still, crazy engagements, 8-11 in favor of the Dire. Dire have lost 2 towers in access to the Radiant. But keep in mind, 1 tower was denied on that bottom lane. They do have a kill advantage, they should have an experience advantage. Only the slightest of experience advantage. Meanwhile, only a slightest of gold advantages, and that gold advantage is quite surprising because, again, the tower count is actually in favor of the Radiant. Actually, the Dire only have, or the Radiant only have 1 more additional tower. I forgot that this top tower did die. Not too sure if it was denied or not, but now the Radiant had to tread on very careful ground. The Xiaofeng has been dying quite a bit. Just now finished the BKB, so if he gets RP'd, we'll resist a lot of the follow-up damage, considering at this point. Gyrocopter does not hit hard whatsoever unless there's Empower on him. Empower only just now level 1, so that Gyrocopter gonna hit for basically no damage with that flat cannon. Still hurts, but still. There's going to be some follow-up damage if Magnus does get an RP off onto the Xiaofeng. But meanwhile, just checking out the early game items. Rubik, Arcane Boots wards. Dire, no wards, just sentry wards. Saying we don't care about vision. We have a lot of blink daggers, or we have a blink dagger, and we're tanky. We don't want observer wards in this game. Just gonna use sentry wards to spot out the movement of the NA. And this is a really interesting way to play Dota. Just gonna give the supports a lot more farm, and just say screw wards. We don't need them. Magnus getting close to that BKB. Supports are actually a bit more farmed. I mean, Sand King has 8 CS, but still with the stick, sentry wards. And now with the finished magic wand, Leshrac has Arcane Boots as well as going for that BKB. So you wouldn't expect this sort of farm on the Leshrac on 19 CS with only 2 towers to his name. But still, this is what happens when you don't have to buy wards apparently. As Dire gonna place their first ward, it is a Roshan ward. They still have a tower to help reinforce the Roshan engagement, but still, Xiaofeng with that presence of the Dark Ward could potentially bring down that Roshan quite quickly, so they always have to be on the lookout for that. Meanwhile, Beastmaster working towards a fast Aghanims rush. Windrunner, has she finished the mechanism just yet? Just recently finished the mechanism. Still quite squishy. But the Radiant gonna have to try to end the game or try to get more map control, because again, the teamfights are not gonna get prettier as this game goes on. And usually Magnus's go for straight up refresher after getting that blink dagger. But in this situation, since Magnus needs to do a bit more DPS, physical DPS, wants to be in the middle of things, does want to get that BK, considering Gyrocopter in the grand scale of things is quite underfarmed. You can see being outfarmed by Xiaofeng by 30 CS, even if he hasn't died nearly as much as Xiaofeng. Xiaofeng 4 deaths compared to Gyrocopter's 2. But Smoker to See is popped. The Dire not going to have vision of that because they have no wards, but even then, not really the most expected way to sort of do a smoking. Yeah, the Dire have a second ward up. And Gyrocopter gonna engage the Rubik Mano Imano, gonna successfully take the kill, but use call down. Might very well pay for it with his life. NA with the Vendetta is gonna come in with the Impale. Gonna help clean up the Gyrocopter. A couple more races will secure his death. Rubik for a Gyrocopter. The Rain will make that trade any day of the week. But here comes the onslaught of the Dire squad. The Hawk is, fortunately for the Rain, spotting out the positioning. They do not want to get multiple men RP like they've been doing every time RP has been used. It's been always 2 or 3 men, never been a 1-man RP, but they're going to initiate onto the left track. They feel confident taking this fight with the Xiaofeng BKB, but here comes the RP. Xiaofeng could not get the blink or the BKB up. Now going to pop the BKB as well as the Requiem Souls. Huge amounts of damage right onto the back of the Sand King. Burrow Strike, Shackle Shot, shackling people to the illusions. And what composure by Tangoes taking that team wipe. Getting themselves a kill advantage, gonna take a tower as well. They said, we had the BKB, we're gonna use it. And man, did they ever. And taking advantage of the Darkseer wall in ways I didn't really think, or didn't really come to mind. You can just shackle people to those Darkseer illusions.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
And now Dire must be feeling a little bit confused. I think they might have been able to kill the Xiaofeng. He was taking a Burrow Strike, a Reverse Polarity, no BKB was active. If Gyrocopter was just in the picture, doing some flat cannon and some call down damage, that fight might have just been able to be turned around very, very quickly. But unfortunately, Gyrocopter was dead. And I still think the Dire do have a much better team fight as Darkseer does disconnect. Bit of lag issues. I'm not too sure where Baget is from. No pause? Well, it's up to the Dire to pause it. And there goes the pause. But yeah, very interesting game going on thus far. As Tango's making some uncharacteristic mistakes in the early game. When I've been watching Tango's this tournament, they really just don't make mistakes unless they get pressured on early game. You know, I have not yet seen Baget in action, but these RPs by the Magnus always catching more than one hero every single time. Really solid job by them. But as it is, Tangoes have a really strong mid-game lap. They're going to take down the Roshan. This tower is still in the picture, but I think they feel pretty confident with no Magnetar, Reverse Polarity online, with no Epicenter online either, with no Darkseer in the game. But even if he does come back online, doesn't have the wall. So this Roshan should die quite quickly. And Tangoes is one of those teams who sort of waits for the other teams to make mistakes. They had a triple. Well, in their first match I saw them play, they were up 42-14 in terms of kills. And they never want to push in. They just split push the other team to death. But in this game, I don't think they'll have that option. They should group up as 5 and try to end the game soon, because Gyrocopter, with the potential backup of the Darkseer, the Magnus, even Leshrac, will start to hurt as this game goes on. We'll probably just make short work of them very, very soon. Or not very, very soon, as this game approaches the later stages of the game. Keep in mind it's only 22 minutes in the game. We'll check out the goal graph. It should be in the Rain favor. It's dipping above that 5k mark, reaching around 6k goal difference. Experience advantage 4k, definitely something that can be overcome, especially considering the team fight on the side of the Dire. One thing that is worrying is that the Sand King only level 8, not going to have a Blink Dagger up at any point. They're really just relying on the Magnus to get that RP up. But as long as Windrunner gets a Shackle Shot, as long as Rubik is in place with Telekinesis, even if they do get Reverse Polarity on Beastmaster or on the Shadow Fiend, Sand King can just get his Epicenter stunned, so he really needs to get a Dagger up. If I was a Dire, I'd try to stack some camps, maybe get Sand King a bit of farm. But as it is, no points in the Caustic, it would take quite a while for him to clear a stack of camps as it is. But still, it's a bit surprising not to see any stacks for the Gyrocopter going on. No ancient stacks. Just one ancient stack. Roshan is going to be claimed by the Radiant. No contest. coming in from the Dire. Really can't contest it without an RP or an Epicenter online. Gyrocopter desperately seeking that BKB. We'll have it up in about 500 gold. The question is whether the Radiant want to gank him again. As the Dire finally have some observer wards, they're going to spot out this invisibility rune, or Magnus is going to pick up the invisibility rune. And the Radiant really want to chase down this Gyrocopter, but the Dire have full vision of these double supports moving in. Gyrocopter going to get the heck out of there. Really needs a speed KB in order to have a measurable impact in a team fight. You know, Magnus is going to stalk his prey. How often do you see a Rhino stalk his prey? Rhino just charges in, doesn't give any sorts of damn. As Magnus is going to skewer forward, going to drag the NA. I think he might have seen the slow effect on the NA, but of course no detection on the side of the Dire. A bit surprising, because the Dire usually have detection, they just don't usually have the observer wards up. But now apparently it's a vice versa. Meanwhile, checking out the items on NA, has fish and earn, not too sharp far, he got it. But he starts to fish, the Agonim's gonna give him access to the shorter cooldown of the roar, 45 seconds. Give him that access into the 950 range. Ridiculous range. Pretty much if he gets vision in the Magnetar before Magnetar can really get his hands on a Blink Dagger in, will have the potential to just be roared as long as the Beastmaster has vision and can get in the right place. Magnetar will have to be very careful. And now he has additional range to roar the Gyrocopter even through the BKB. Agnums on Beastmaster are just so good. That range is ridiculous. Well, Dire just going to turtle it out, have 2 points in the wall. Darkseer level 13 almost. We'll get level 13 after a couple more creeps. As my voice. Taking me back to when I was in middle school, apparently. And actually, Darkseer, nope, just managed to get that experience. Magnus still saving up for that BKB. But he's going to be a long ways away, still about 1300 gold away. Vacuum trying to kill off the Hawk does do so successfully, but now they'll be without the Vacuum for 20 seconds. But really, with the creep wave not yet been destroyed, Vacuum will be back online. And it looks like the Dire Radiant gonna do some swift pushing like they did in their first game. Winner of Fish, the Force Staff. Shadow Fiend has fished the Manta style, so now he has a bit more survivability as well as with the Aegis. Still, the Radiant can't wait around too long. Only have about 3.5 to 4 minutes left on that Aegis. And they want to make full use of it. They know, I'm sure they know that the Dire do have a better late game team fight. RP, definitely nothing to be underestimated. Gyrocopter cannot be underestimated either, but Shadow Fiend, one of those heroes whose physical single target DPS is so great that he might be able to hang it out, sort of compete with the Gyrocopter even with this mass amount of AoE. You know, Flox just burning through his mana. Arcane Boots are online on the Nyx and the Rubik, so it will help to sustain him if they do want to go for a push, but right now, just going to split push on multiple angles of attack. This is just classic out of Tangoes. Really just split pushing on all sides, trying to make the enemy make a mistake, but they are not coming to mid lane whatsoever. Like we see so often in other split push scenarios, they're just going to leave Flox on the top lane. And interesting, Flox going to stack or pull the wave so he can get a bigger stack of creeps when that push finally does come in. Probably will just try to tank these creeps himself. No, he's going to pull these creeps as well, so this creep wave will actually end up dying. So I think if Flox just actually tanked that creep wave, he'd have a huge creep wave going on the top lane, but I guess the Rain didn't really want to take it and engage in so soon. Are they coming up on any big items? No, Beastmaster still quite far away. Maybe Beastmaster going to get a Blink Dagger with that roar, can initiate from a million miles away. NA saving up 2k gold in the bank. Not too sure what he's going to go for. Maybe a Hex? Maybe a Pipe? You know, checking out the items on the side of the Dire, Sand King's just dirt poor, or sand poor. I'm sorry. That was terrible. Leshrac has not been able to pick up any items now that the Dire realized that they do need wards. No wards on the map, but Sentry Ward just de-warding it up. No gem up on the side of the Radiant. No invisible heroes other than the Sand King. And I guess they sort of realize that the Dire don't really like placing Observe Wards, so they're just not going to bother getting a gem. As Maglev Gank Train going to easily finish up the Rocket Rain. Looks like they're going to try to push in, forcing out the Burst Strike already. As meanwhile, Mana Burn is going on to the Darkseer. Shackle shot from a mile away, going to clean up the Leshrac. As Magnus gets his reverse polarity cancelled. I guess a misclick on the shift queuing. don't know if the Radiant saw that, but they might want to push in anyway because Leshak is dead. And that is a huge source of damage, been completely mitigated. And Magnus must be kicking himself. Both teams playing a little bit uncharacteristic. As the Roar is going to spot Sand King from a million miles away, going to cast one raise, but just going to allow Sand King to retreat. Didn't want to advance despite them, or didn't want to advance without the creep protection. But these creeps are dying very easily to the flat cam by the gyrocopter. And just going to let Shadow Fiend man it up. Rubik's stolen power. Not too sure what level of power it is. It is level 2. Going to skewer back the Magnus. Going to Chainstone to death. Here comes a vacuum. And Shadow Fiend's just going to take it. Not going to pop the BKB until he revives the Aegis. But gyrocopter already blinked. Got the BKB up. Roar will be back online in about 20 seconds. Actually back online right about now. Shadow Fiend responds with the BKB. Trying to do some right click damage. But still, the Roar is back online. Reverse Polarity is not yet back online. But Shadow Fiend already uses BKB. And now Tangoes is going to back off. Some sloppy play by both teams. Maybe feeling some nerves. There's still quite a significant amount of cash prize left in this tournament pool. Brought to you by Steel Series and Complet. So I'm sure they do not want to be sent home because third place gets nothing. Although this is a best of 3 series, so they both have at least one game to experiment with stuff. And I think Leshak did spot the Vendetta. He is being pinged to get the heck out of there. You know, Gyrocopter and SF both used their 10-second BKB. Well, SF uses 10-second BKB a couple fights ago. Now at the 8-second BKB. You know, Gyrocopter at the 9-second. Shadow Fiend, Mantis Style. We'll see what he goes for now. I think either Lifesteal or Butterfly is probably the best way to go. Butterfly to evade the auto attacks by the Gyrocopter. And Lifesteal because he's often initiated on without him using the BKB. So he wants some way to sort of get back to healthy HP. And I think Lifesteal will give him a solid way to get back into the game. But is saving up 3,300 gold in the bank. Going to pick up that Eagle Song. And it is going to be the Butterfly build. I guess he's starting to realize Gyrocopter is going to start to hurt very, very soon. Already hurts with the drums and phase boots. Especially with the Empower now being at level 3. Will give him a really, really huge amount of DPS. You know, Radiant just gonna play it super safe. This is how Tangoes style. They try to get an early game advantage and then split push you to death. Hopefully you'll make a mistake. But as it is, I'm not too sure if that's likely. The Dire are very content to sit in their base, saying, try to get us at our high ground. We are very powerful here. We do not want to leave our lofty thrones. Sanking just now level 9. Sanking has just been complete non-factor this game. Not by any fault of the player, just by the fault of him playing a support capacity and really not being able to get his epicenter channeled. Just that's unfortunate for Sanking as Beastmaster, no, an X-Assassin, gonna place a very, very interesting Observer Ward. Might indicate that they want to go for a gank relatively soon, maybe just for Roshan engagements. But still, this ward won't spot any smoke of deceit attempts in the base. Meanwhile, Radiant just gonna continue to split push. Don't give a crap about you viewers. As there's gonna be a blink forward, and there's the Impale. And it has revealed the fact that he has a Blink Dagger as he just recently picked up. Did not pick up the pipe, went for that dagger. As now he has an easier time initiating. Keep in mind, Impale, very, very long duration stun. 2.77 seconds, almost 3-second AoE stun. And especially in conjunction with the Spike Carapace, if he manages to get more people to stun. And he by himself, if all conditions are correct, could pretty much lock down the entire team by himself for about 5.5 seconds. Assuming everything goes right for the NA, of course. Meanwhile, Rain just gonna continue to farm, maybe waiting for the Butterfly. Really don't have any inklings of pushing in, just trying to chip down the tower slowly but surely. It's gonna take a while. This tower only losing 108 HP. This tower still at around 2/3 HP. Bottom tower still at around 2/3 HP as well. Rain just gonna try to take all the farm. They're farming the jungle, they're farming the lane, so ultimately they are getting more farm than the Dire, who are only farming the lanes. as they're waiting for the Dire to make a mistake. Dire not really giving them an opening, just going to stay best friends forever, as Darkseer not caught in the smoke. Smoke was not dispelled, so they knew nobody's nearby. As the Dire going to try to get some map control, they know Roshan has respawned. That is why they took the smoke at this point. The Hawk is going to fly over. Will the Centroid scout the positioning? No, they're not going to run by the Centroid, as Magnus is going to blink in with the Secure, trying to get the NA. NA is not the target you want to be focusing. It might be the Xiaofeng. Nice reverse, going to catch just the Xiaofeng, but Xiaofeng might be all that you need. The wall, the vacuum, all been casted, but Beastmaster immediately picks up a double kill, getting a nice roar. Here comes a Requiem of Souls, waiting for the mistake. The mistake happened, and Gyrocopter is left all by his lonesome, saying, guys, where'd you go? Where'd you go? Gyrocopter going to buy back, forced to. Left Strike going to buy back as well. Magnus does have buyback, but does he want to buy back? He should buy back just for the Empower at the very least. They will lose their middle tier 3 tower for sure. The question is, will the Radiant get greedy, try to take the Rex? Magnus is going to buy back. Sand King is online. They do have Epicenter.
From darkness, I surge to light.
And Radiant, understandably, very hesitant to go in, especially after that 4th buyback. They are going to take the Roshan. No ultimates are online to contest this Roshan. But the Dire are going to save their base. The problem is they use so many buybacks of gold differential, starting to spiral out of control, approaching that 20k mark. Experience advantage already surpassing that 20k mark. Let's check out the last hits. Xiaofeng 24, only 42 CS ahead of the Gyrocopter, but the net worth has a full 5k advantage. It is not looking good. No outer towers remain for the side of the Dire. Meanwhile, 4 outer towers still remain for the Radiant. Just won a huge team fight using multiple buybacks, and Xiaofeng gonna try to contest this fight. Here comes the vacuum into the call down, but Xiaofeng doing so much right click damage, gonna immediately pick off 3 heroes at the start of the battle. Finish the butterfly, gonna wipe everybody, and I think this might be very well GG because everybody used their buyback. Gonna make no item progressions whatsoever. But the creep wave is not in the favor, as Magnus is gonna disconnect. We'll see if there's a pause or if there was a GG. No, just gonna be a straight up disconnect. No GG, go next. As made both teams a bit miffed. GG, I guess. Best of 3 is the call. But yeah, gonna be some disconnects. Dire probably frustrated by the Radiant's playstyle, but the Radiant play to win, play to split push, make the other team make a mistake, and boy, did the other team make a mistake. I don't think the Dire should have contested that Roshan with no ultimates online. And as it is, that is going to be game 1 of the losers bracket finals. So one more game, and Tangoes gets a chunk of that hefty €2,000 prize pool. And one chunk, or one game remains from Baget being eliminated from this tournament. This has been a presentation by B-Ball from the ATS Gaming Tournament number 1. Sponsored by Steel Series and Complay. I will be back with game 2 very, very shortly. Hopefully with the co-caster. And I will see you very, very soon. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.